Hello and welcome back to the next One Piece review and discussion. We are here with the next chapter of Elbaf, and things have certainly gone awry. We are now in the midst of the chaos, and everyone is sort of splitting up to different parts of this branch to deal with the threats. And it seems that certain things do indeed pay off. So, without further ado, chapter 1173, A Generation of Warriors. And the cover story request this week comes with Usopp covering his nose in honey to try and attract a rhinoceros beetle, but it doesn't seem to care, and the only thing it does attract is Chopper behind a tree. He loves this sweet stuff, so no wonder. But nevertheless, we have a chapter to discuss. So last we had left off, the group down in the realm of the dead were making their way up to the sun realm, and they began their sort of strategy meeting and came to the conclusion that whatever the options were for saving the children, making sure they didn't get to the harbour in time, the school was on fire, there was a lot of problems, all the dreams and nightmares that had been created. Everything that was happening was down to three individuals who were the threat or the enemies. They were all devil fruit users, and it was determined that only in defeating them could we stop what was happening, cut off their abilities, as it were. So, once we had reached back up to the sun realm, it was indeed chaos. The nightmares were running rampant, they were huge, devastating. The whole village and tree was just catching fire. It was an absolute battlefield, and it was very quick that we ran into Kashi, who was bleeding, who was injured, who finally caught up to Hiruden's group and explained what was going on and the situation. And it was a very nicely drawn map of where they were situated at the sort of trunk of Adam's tree. There was a whole field of forests and trees and stuff, and in the main branch this was all happening on. So right on one end was the school that was now on fire. The kids were halfway along, getting closer towards the western village, where if they reached the ship that was ready to depart, it was game over. Those kids were going to be used as hostages, Gabon said, and we had to make sure, no matter what, they do not reach that ship. Now, we had Ripley's group trying to cut the kids off, and a lot of the other giants and parents trying to get involved so that their kids wouldn't be taken hostage. But the problem was, we also had the now giant warrior pirates turned demonic giant warrior pirates racing towards the western village to kill Ja Rule. Elder Ja Rule was their target, and he gave a phenomenal speech last chapter. I mean, it was up there with just rallying the troops. He stood his ground for what Harold had left, for Harold's wishes, for his dream to continue. It was not what he wanted. He wanted a peaceful Elbaf, and he declared war against the world government and made sure everyone knew that Loki was indeed innocent, and that these individuals that were present here now, the threats, were the ones to cause all these demons, as it were. So after his speech, it was quickly determined that Goldberg, Gerd and Road, who had already run off hearing that his little brother was one of the captives, they were rushing off to save the kids. Sanji was very quick to jump on where the other Straw Hats were. He wanted to go find Nami and Robin, of course, so he was heading towards the school. Likely Chopper and Gabon have gone that way as well, but Hiruden, Stanzen and Zoro had gone towards Dory and Broggy. Had they heard, they too had become these demonic creatures, and Zoro could not resist because he had a plan. So we jump straight into this chapter. We're already arriving at the Western Village. The giants are now in a battle. It is all go. There are giants defending Ja Rule. Everyone else on the demonic side are just causing chaos. And they want nothing more than to see Ja Rule fall. And he just can't believe what he's seeing in front of him. Dory and Broggy have become these demonic creatures. It's unfathomable to see. And they plead with Zoro, Hyruden and Stanzen, to say, what is your plan? Try not to do too much damage to them. They are our elders still, the giant warrior pirates. We respect them. Please try and spare their pride. And then two of the giant warriors turn round and start mocking and gloating Hyruden and Stanzen, saying, that unrealistic dream of yours, trying to unite all of the giants of the world. It was a childish dream, that was never going to happen. And immediately just snap and just go, Zoro, they're all yours. Go for it. So Zoro's like, all right, brothers, watch this. And he leaps and starts sort of leapfrogging from giant to giant. And they're like, oh, that's clever, getting above them. You can weave in and out of this. So Hyruden and Stanzen sort of split off and sort of try and come around the other giants in the area. And Zoro pulls out his secret technique, his crossing of the six paths, to just annihilate a large group of demonic giants instantly. And Stanzen is like, wow, that's Zoro for you. That is insane. And at this point, Dory and Broggy have turned. They are realising that Zoro is here and they are enraged. And Zoro uses his blades, the concussive force of his blades attack, to redirect himself out of the way as Dory and Broggy go to swing at him. And as he dodges, they actually go for each other. And this is a callback to the Little Garden, where, they clash on the island, there's those shock waves, they hit each other's shields. Not this time. Demonic, souped up, ultimate versions of these two. They cleave right through their own, shields and just dissect into each other. And everyone just freezes. They're like, hold up. And they just immediately spray blood, the two of them taking each other down. No way are they out here. Not a chance. They will recover. There is no way that they just one-shot each other and that's it, one and done. These two are getting back up. But we actually come away. So last chapter we learned that while everyone was tied up by Gunko's arrows, all the straw hats, Brook had managed to wriggle himself away somehow. He'd somehow just left the group for some unknown reason. We knew he'd recognised Gunko in some way. He'd seen that face before and he was shocked. He is crawling along the branch in this location here while everything is on fire, and he looks over at Gunko, who is just in her full demonic, possessed form at the minute, full wings, tail, pitchfork, really giving that devil demonic look. And he shouts up, Princess Shuri. And she looks over and just in confusion, the ellipses are there, she's kind of just listening to him ramble. And he's like, it can't possibly be you. I'm certain it's impossible. But I had to make sure because you are the spitting image of the princess. But again, it was over 80 years ago now. This is how old you would be. There's no way you would look this young. So maybe you are a descendant. Maybe you are someone of her bloodline. But it's all too coincidental, You might not have recognised me because of how much I've changed, he said. But, those features, the blue hair, the mismatched eye colour, the connection to the Holy Land, and the fact that you are fond of my music, every single detail in front of me matches Princess Shuri. And Brook changes. He is like, I'd hoped that I could have gone the rest of my life without ever thinking of you again. You know, I owe everything to the man whose life you took. You know, you patricidal princess. I did not think that this, of all arcs of One Piece so far, was going to be the Brook backstory. Like, the amount of build up we've had for Usopp to come in on Elbaf, and the hype around his, you know, rise in power, his arc, his character development, was such a focal point for Elbaf. And then the curveball of, no, it turns out that one of the Holy Knights is deeply connected to Brook. So Brook, way, way, way back when, and I assume we're going to find the full details out now as the story goes on, had a connection to, it sounds like, a king or someone he owed his life to. Someone who he was in debt to. And he spent time at this place and knew a Princess Shuri, or young Gunko in this instance, what we saw in that brief panel flashback. Something happened and Shuri ended up killing her father, it sounds like. And he thought he could forget about it and move on. Now it's 80 plus years past. But it turns out that the power of immortality can stretch far longer than it looks. And it seems that Gunko, at least raised to where she is now, has had this connection to Eam and the Holy Lands for nearly 80 years. So this is actually pretty crazy. Gunko starts to remember. And we go inside her mind and Eam is pushing back like, are those memories trying to return? No, no, no. And there is a brief moment where Gunko regains her own consciousness because of what Brook is talking to her about. And she is instantly like, Brook, you've got to run away here. And begins to undo the arrows that are binding Brook, the Straw Hat, and the one leading the kids. It is a moment, and I mean like, Brook tumbles out of the arrows before Eam regains control, says, do you think you could move against your own will? Brook's leg gets trapped in the arrows again, so he's mostly out, but his leg's trapped, and he's like, damn, this wasn't a good idea. Eam gets that control back and says, who are you, to Gunko, because Brook is like, why did you not run? You know, I came all this way to seal this matter. Who the hell are you? And we get it. We get the Brook Eam / Gunko showdown. And it is insane. There is Brook's got a like sword and shield, his cane and his shield. He's like all Viking armor. Gunko's coming in with a kick. I cannot believe that the first Straw Hat member to pretty much go toe to toe 1v1 with Eam is Brook. The dude is now the MVP. Like, seriously, what a guy. We see that the other Straw Hats here are free. They're all happy now they're out of these bandages. Robin is still entwined in Summer's brambles. So she's still all tied up while the rest of them are free. And Nami hears her name, and of course Sanji is arriving at this time. But we round off this chapter on the other side of the branch, right near the Western Village. Summer is gloating to Colin and the other kids, and he's like talking to them, you know, just to get them over the finish line. Colin's like, you're never going to get away with this. Like, our parents, the other giants, they're going to stop you. And he starts talking about, oh, you know, like, you're Gabon's kid. Like, this is pretty funny, actually. But, you know, I dare say, you know, you're a real hoot. And Summer's on this, like, vine snake, the bramble snake he's created, is just, like, sort of minding his own business, going along. He sees the ship. They are literally down a couple flights of stairs. They're at the ship. So, in this moment, the rest of the parents, Ripley, Oimo, they're all arriving. They are rushing towards the kids, and Summer's like, oh, you really just are trying to get in the way here. And the demonic nightmare of Nika, the god of destruction, slashes down with its sword, begins to try and attack the parents, and the kids are like, you've got to get away, no, escape. And they're like, hold up, who do you think we are? We come from the generation of warriors. And they immediately just start to lash out and sort of make the Nika nightmare stumble. And it's like, whoa, okay, they're actually pretty strong here. And we see off to one side, Goldberg, Gerd and Road have all got down, ready to team up. Well, Goldberg and Gerd were ready to team up, and Road just kind of threw himself in the mix right at the end. He's like, no, I want to save my brother. Come on, let me join in, guys. They do their 3 general Gokoku sovereignty. So the 3 of them from the ground, absolute laser beam, wind blast, whatever it is, the sort of sovereignty of the sea attack, and they explode through the Nika nightmare. And as it begins to fall, Summer, not even thinking, summons his huge Kanabo sort of bramble vine weapon that he was using, and he's like, oh, you're in my way, you're going to crush me. And he just knocks the Nika out the way, just doesn't want to get crushed by it, he says. And he knocks it straight into the ship that he needed the kids to get on. And it blows the ship up, the ship sinks, and Summer just has a final panel of looking at the ship falling into the water and goes, oh shit. So, within one chapter, the ship has been dealt with. The well done, Giants. Kids are half safe, at least. They're not on the ship, so we're not at that point. But I did not think in one chapter Summer would be the one to destroy the ship in such a way. I mean, we're really wrapping things up here in Elbath, and I think we're going to have a number of chapters of big showdowns to come, because it looks like the kids are going to be saved a lot quicker than we thought, because Summer's in trouble. Unless he obfuscates a way towards Eam of, who actually destroyed the ship. But we'll see. There's no break next week, so I think we're definitely going to get more action. Luffy and Loki obviously still in the realm of the dead, on their way up. Definitely going to be a confrontation with Eam. It's definitely all going to go very chaotic. So, we'll see. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Let me know what you saw this chapter, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.